That was good.
Well, now the real question is, should we just leave it at there and then move on?
Yeah, make it a two-parter.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was sitting there this morning and I was thinking like, oh, how am I going to introduce Ed? And I thought, that's the perfect way to do it is just, the continue the feud. But
Dude, so I'm getting a lot of feedback that they want another feud, and I'm like, well, we've both been busy, and Hatch is off being smart and stuff. So like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I keep getting the messages to bring back the feud too. And so anyway,
And it's so funny that happens just like so organically. Like neither of us talked to each other, and then we just started making reels, throwing them at each other.
yeah. I think that's one of the funnest things about the internet, is not necessarily the fact that like I've never met you in person.
Right,
And so you get you develop these friendships online that have no, I don't want to say basis in reality, but really, like they have no basis in reality. So there is no reason as to why we should be friends or feuding enemies or either way, but you just kind of fall into those natural roles either way, right?
right. Well, there's like a compartmentalization that happens there too, right? So like, I know Instagram Hatch, and then like, I don't know like Dad Hatch, like. So I think that leads to it also.
That's true. Yeah, you do kind of end up playing a certain role when you're in on online. Like I think you follow my other account, don't you, or no?
The chiropractor one, or
I guess I have three accounts. I kind of ignore the chiropractic one because it doesn't bring me any joy.
oh, okay.
But no,
I
so
might.
I have this one, and then I have a Hatch Makes account, and that's the one I kind of share with my wife,
Okay.
and then I have, yeah, my office account that's just kind of mostly dead. But my office or my Hatch Makes account, that one it's more of the homestead stuff that my wife and I do, like the cooking and gardening and all that type of stuff. But
Right.
but
So
but yeah, I do tend to fall into a different role in that particular social media feed. But
yeah, so I went through a month or two ago and like unfollowed like I don't know, like 1,000 accounts. So if you want to text me that one or IM me that one, I'll refollow it if I unfollowed it.
that's all right. If you don't love me, Ed, you don't have to.
I was just the feed was getting so boring. Like it was the same stuff over and over. So then, it was time to cut the fat. So no, I'm adding people back. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, I unfollowed you.
Yeah. No, what am I sitting at? I'm sitting at like 650 or something. And then, yeah, every once in a while I'll go through and unfollow people just to
Yeah, I'm down to 292. I think I got down to 250 and then I added some back.
664. That's where I'm at right now.
Ooh, you don't want two more. You need like either one more or three more, right?
Oh, are you one of those people who's paranoid about odd numbers and stuff or what?
Well, no, I'm not paranoid, but just in case. I'll be 667. Yeah.
it's it's not paranoia. It's just plain common sense.
Yeah, it's just insurance.
Yeah. I don't believe in God, but I go to church just in case.
right. Yeah. So the whole church discussion. right.
Anyway, so yeah, it's fun. It's funny how you do end up developing kind of a community around what you're doing online. It's, but I don't know how old you are. I think you're younger than me, right? You're what, in your mid
Uh,
30s?
37.
Oh, okay, so you're not that much younger than me then. I
right.
thought I thought you were like early 30s, but
It's just this baby
that,
face I have. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why I tend to shave fairly often is because my beard's all white.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
So if you dig back like to the first Instagram post like years ago, you'll see me without a beard. And my girlfriend now is like, you can't go back. Like she's like, I'm leaving if you shave off your beard. So I'm like, oh, I guess that solves that.
my wife's kind of the opposite that way. Actually, I mean, she's not going to leave me if I leave my beard on, but she definitely doesn't like it.
Okay.
But then mine's like 90% white, and so makes me feel old and decrepit, so I shave it off. Anyway, what I was going to say is like you develop this community around yourself because you have the similar interests and similar you know habits, and it's funny how even the online people all end up being the same age, even though I didn't really directly correlate that to anything, right? Like I just kind of assume certain things, but then as I'm talking to all the different people, I realize it's like, yeah, we're all the same age around here, within a year or two or three, and
Right. I guess it makes sense, right? Because like you just think of the normal lifespan. And like, hey, you're a teenager, you're going to college, whatever, and you're all busy, and then you're getting a job or kind of establishing yourself. No, a lot of us have a little bit of spare time and at least a little bit of disposable income that we can buy tools and stuff with, and it's just kind of all. You're working in like a silo and got blinders on, but everybody else is too, around you. And then
That's true.
you look up and you're like, oh, that's, woodworking actually is kind of cool, or blacksmithing or whatever it is.
It is kind of cool for us middle-aged men
Right.
and and women. I have to say that there are actually my analytics are funny that way. Speaking of that, and like the podcast listeners, according to the internet analytics, are like 50% female, which is very strange to me that there's that many who are interested in listening. But thank you everybody for listening anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Then
Um,
yeah, I'm getting super cognizant of that type of stuff now, like being aware of those sorts of things, just because my master's is just absolutely hammering on that all the time.
mhm.
So, like it's always talking about proper gender pronouns and not being discriminatory with any of your speech, and now I find myself, I know that I'm not being rude to anybody or trying not to be rude to anybody, but then my master's is telling me that I am being a horrible person by
Right.
not being 100% kind or cognizant of all that stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
complete side note.
Yeah. That's probably a whole other topic,
Um,
right?
yeah, that's a whole
Um.
other rant we could go down, but we
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah. Well, like I don't know.
So you have anything?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm getting more involved with the Cub Scouts. I've been taking leader training and all kinds of things, and a big thing with them too is diversity and inclusion training, and that's not necessarily like us trying to be more politically correct or whatever. A big theme there is that the leadership of the units should probably look like the members of the unit, right? So now we have girls and females and all kinds of races, and everybody's a different color, and we all eat different things, and just for 100 years it's been old white men, right, going out into the woods. So now it's it kind of makes sense. It's just sometimes those things you have to like vocally say and vocal and physically work towards. So but it's not necessarily along the pronoun game. I know academia is sometimes more cutting edge on that stuff, right?
Yeah, more bleeding edge than cutting edge.
Right. Yeah. They cut a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I was listening to oh shoot, what's his name? He's a New Zealand actor director guy. He's always in the comedies. Uh,
Gervais or
no, he's English.
oh
Oh shoot, I can see the guy's name. Taki something. Did you watch Free Guy?
no.
No. I can tell. Yeah, I bet you if I Google New Zealand actor director guy, it'll bring him up.
Oh, Takai what a TT?
Yeah,
Oh, Tika. Man, I'm butchering this.
yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you. I googled New Zealand actor director guy, and he's the first person there.
Yeah, I did too.
Speaking of stereotyping and judging people by their ethnicity. Anyway,
Right.
I was listening to an interview with him not too long ago, and it was interesting. He was talking about how he's frustrated with the whole inclusivity and everything in Hollywood currently because it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like you have the new Little Mermaid, and all of the sisters are different races and all of these things, and it doesn't make sense that way. And so his thing was is like, I'd rather inclusivity just being accepting of the fact that I'm a New Zealand Maori director telling a New Zealand Maori story with New Zealand Maori actors,
Right.
rather than have the Pocahontas story with a white actress and a black actress and an Asian actress, and like the whole, it doesn't make sense that way.
All right, so here's this is going to sound horrible. I have this concept of positive racism. I wish I could see your face. Um,
I'm grinning because I think I probably know what it is.
okay, so it's more about like celebrating where people come from and like what makes them them, right? Like, and think about food. Like, have you ever had tacos al pastor? Like, holy crap, right?
Yeah.
Like a Middle Eastern Syrian kind of dish where they put lamb on a rotisserie, and they brought it to Mexico. They put pineapples on top, and then they put it in tortillas. Like, it's a fusion dish, and it's amazing, So like me as a middle-aged white man who loves Al Pastor tacos, that's like a fusion of three other cultures. Like, why can't the world be like that, right? Like, I mean, Italian food's awesome, like Greek food's like, and everybody likes to eat, right? So like,
Yeah.
start there, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I actually, I'll often describe myself as an equal opportunity racist.
Yeah, I hate everybody, right? So,
No, no, I, I don't dislike you based on race, creed, or color. I only dislike you based on your actions and your attitude towards other people.
right. And like, I don't know, like if you could actually, so like, there's the politics sort of things and like, whoever's in charge today telling you what you should do. But if you actually talk to people, most people are like, whatever, leave me alone. Like, like just let me do my thing. Like, vast majority of people that are like that, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
And that's, I mean, I think that's why people across diverse borders, as much as you and I are the same, middle-aged white guy type of situation, our life experience is probably completely different. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
grew up in the middle of nowhere, northern Canada, like at one point in my life, my driveway was 6 miles long and it took me an hour and a half to get to school.
Right. Jeez, okay.
I'm pretty certain that you probably didn't experience that, right?
No, I live 1 mile from the school and a bus picked me up.
Yeah, so like our life experiences are completely different, but yeah, we end up having the same kind of attitudes of I just want to do my thing, I want to be left alone. I don't
Right.
hate anybody implicitly. The only people I dislike are the people who are jerks.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know how well. I mean, I heard things about your Canadian government, but American governments and shambles, and more people I talk to are like, I don't like any of them. They're all old rich people that have no connection to what we do every day, right?
Oh, it's the same here. On our trip actually this summer, we spent some time with a family from Germany. They were touring across Canada, and the husband, he was, what was he? What do you say he was? He's like 16, 17 years old when the Berlin Wall came down, right?
Right.
And so he remembers growing up in communist Russia or Soviet Union, and then the rest of his life has been in the free West, right? And so we were talking about, got into politics and that type of stuff, and I came away from it thinking to myself, it's the same everywhere, whether it's communist Russia or democratic West Germany or the United States or Canada. It's all corrupt politicians and basically everybody else is going along for the ride and just wants to do their thing.
Right. Oh, it's almost like I used to be more involved when I was younger and like bumper stickers and this and that and the other thing. And then after a while you realize like none of it really matters too much, right? Like unless you want to be like an AOC or an Obama or something, but like even that's like a little bit you got to have that certain thing that's wrong in your brain to want to do that. Like and then so it's like comes down to almost like, hey, let's just make the best of this. Like, this is probably the best we have. And don't get me wrong, like I love America, like everything that I have, grateful for family and health and all this other stuff. I'm not trying to be cynical, but at the same time, it's like I'm only going to be here for another how many decades? Like probably start making the best of it.
Yeah, yeah. Going through the middle-aged life crisis of, holy crap, I'm halfway through my life and I haven't done anything.
Right. So if you talk to my girlfriend, that means I need to get that El Camino sooner than later, right?
You're really aiming for the bottom of the pile if that's your goal.
And yeah, but so like I want like an '80s like El Camino that's mechanically good, but bodywork is garbage, right? So then you could just spray paint it black and just drive around like a douchebag, right? Like that's my goal there.
So some people have the dream of, like, I want to own a Ferrari. I want to own an Aston Martin. Here you are. I want to own a piece of garbage and be a douchebag.
Yeah, I mean not like douchebag, but like you get some Flowmasters or something and like blast down the highway, like that kind of douchebag, right? I'm like
Fair
it's
enough.
a it's a '80s car that's half pickup truck, right? Like that's pretty cool to like a 7-year-old boy, right? So in my brain, I'm still 7.
Yeah, fair enough. That's secretly why I want an '83 GMC Sierra 250. Is because that was the cool truck when I was a kid.
Oh, you got like a lift kit and running boards on and stuff like diamond plate.
No running boards. Just
Okay.
just like a 2 or 3 inch lift on it is all. Nothing
Okay.
nothing ridiculous.
Right.
Good. Yeah. That's funny. It's I actually had a conversation with somebody just yesterday about why do all these theories focus on, or why is it always trauma from a childhood, right? Like, why is that causing the problem? Can't your current attitudes mess you up for your current, and absolutely you can get messed up by current actions and current events, but it's funny how much of our experience as a child creates our reality of today.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't. Do you listen to Dave Bauer's Making Problems to Solve?
Yeah.
So he's doing a pretty good job with like the origin stories, and then like the more and more you listen, you're like, oh, that sounds like the other guy. Oh, that sounds like me. So like, I don't know if he's ever done this, but he could probably. He's got enough episodes now where he could probably put his guests in like buckets, right? Like, hey, I grew up on a farm, and if we didn't make it or fix it, we didn't have it. Or my dad was a handyman, I just had tools around. And then there's like the oh, I saw something cool on YouTube during COVID. Now I'm like, I quit my job and I make art. Or like, so there's like, I don't know how many, but a handful of like origin stories in this maker community, and it seems like people are more and more fitting in those buckets, right? So like, I kind of fall in the like, my dad always fixed everything, and there was always tools around, you know?
Yeah. That's I kind of fit into that, and they grew up on the farm.
Right,
Like my dad was a, but I think that's kind of farm mentality though, right? Is you have to do it yourself, and you learn how to do it all yourself, and then that trauma carries through into your adulthood, and you think that, oh, I need to do this myself, and so
right.
you end up collecting a shop full of thousands of dollars worth of tools to change light bulbs and fix $2 problems.
Well, yeah, and it's like, well, what if I need this, or like the just in case, like, and then I think Jimmy DeResta said it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm just the old guy on your block with a garage full of shit that you don't need, but when you need it, he has it." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yep.
like, I could literally count on my hands the number of times my dad hired somebody to do something. It was like the roof, like these giant trees that if he cut them down, they'd hit the neighbor's house. Uh, One time we got the HVAC replaced, but it was a firefighter at work who did it, and we helped him. So it's like there was literally under 10 times that we hired like contractors to do things. And like my girlfriend grew up much differently than me, and she's a real estate lawyer, you know. So it's like, you know, the outlet in the sunroom was hanging out the wall. She's like, oh, I guess gotta call an electrician. I'm like, what? Like, don't insult me, you know. Like so it's like different origin stories, you know.
Yeah, I often use the story, or the experience in my life that without a word of a lie, I didn't know that you could buy frozen vegetables until I
Okay.
was 13 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's just like I grew up assuming that everybody had an acre and a half garden, and raised their own meat, and like grocery stores. You went to grocery stores to buy things that you couldn't make yourself, and yeah,
Right.
so it was. And then when I moved out from home and suddenly had to buy food, like holy crap, like how do people eat steaks? This is insane.
Right. There you're butchering a cow or you're going to Outback. Yeah. So, what
Yeah, I was
uh, I posted that meme about that tomato growing that offended you a couple months ago. It was, it's like, hey, I spent $100 on supplies, and I spent you know, hundreds of hours nurturing these little plants, and now I have a tomato. Great, I saved $1. And then you DM me and you're like, actually, here's my numbers, and I have a ton of tomato sauce, and it's $800. And I'm like, dude, it was a joke, you know?
Yeah, no, I knew that you were just being sarcastic on that one, but that's actually, I don't know, that's my other soapbox that I get on every once in a while is food security,
Right.
because tomatoes are a great example. There's not very many people who don't like tomatoes, and there's very few things that taste as good as a garden fresh tomato,
Right.
at least in my opinion. But you know, if everybody grew a tomato, that's that's millions and millions and millions of dollars out of the economy. So everybody has a vested interest in making sure that everybody doesn't grow tomatoes. Yeah. Anyway, go down that whole soapbox, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
really, I just respond to your stuff because you offend me in general. Yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
so
Well, I mean, that's our relationship we've cultured here, right?
it's true. That's the shtick.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you're known as the guy who just has a constant face of disappointment. Like, you don't get happy or mad. It's just level-headed, right? Level-headed Hatch.
Oh, is that what people call me behind my back? I've never. Nobody's ever
Uh,
said that to me.
I've been in a conversation when we were talking about like what kind of crazy meme I can make, and they're like, I don't know, you just have a stern face of disappointment.
That's what when I was a kid. The you know that song. I was like, it's like the turn your frown upside down and smile your frown away. Have you ever heard that song?
I think so. It's like a cheesy kid song.
Yeah, yeah. It's like people would sing that to me all the time, and it used to irritate the heck out of me
Okay.
because they'd be like, it takes more muscles to be sad than it does happy, or and it just always bugged me because it's like I'm not sad.
This
I'm
is how I look.
this is just my face.
Right.
I guess I have that resting biatch face or whatever, right?
I don't know though, but you're like Alberta farmer guys, so it's kind of fits, you know. You're not like Kate Gosling or whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I'll smile more then. Just
Well,
I've
but
always thought, like the whole it takes more muscles to frown than to smile. It takes no muscles at all to just let your face relax, and it happens to that my relaxed face just looks grumpy, I suppose.
yeah, kind of. But now, if you do smile more, you have to like make it like strained and like make it look like you're making an effort, you know.
That would really help unsell it.
Right.
Look at look at that natural smile. There's tears coming out of his eyes.
This hurts so much. So yeah, but like your content, I guess, because we interacted so much, like I'll see your stories, but then like your reels are like a couple days delayed, and I'm like, oh, what's he doing now? Like it's weird. So I don't know if Instagram's playing with that, or they're confused too because you have all these friends in New Jersey, right?
No joke on that one actually, because like I'll get ads from stuff in New Jersey and New York more often than I get ads from stuff in Alberta.
Well, is there anything in Alberta?
Yeah, there's cows.
Okay, there's. So I mean, there's not much tourists going on up there, right?
Well, hey, we have what was it 11? I think we have 11 UNESCO World Heritage sites in Alberta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in North America. We have the world's, I think it's the world's, it used to be the world's largest national park. And we have the Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum.
Oh, that's
That's,
pretty interesting.
yeah. And then we have lots of bald, flat prairie, and then lots of tree covered prairie up in the north. Yeah, it's a very exciting province. You should come visit sometime.
Right. I'm sure it's
But don't.
beautiful, but kind of boring though, right?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to go to restaurants and the nightlife isn't really.
Right.
I guess if you live in Calgary, then you're probably okay because Calgary. It sounds funny, but Calgary's the big city, and it's like 1.1 million people. So you probably have more than that within like a what 15-mile radius of you.
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, towns here are 100K, like just small towns, you know.
To put that into perspective, Lethbridge is the closest city to me, and it's 20 minutes away, and it's 114,000. My town, we're out of water this morning. The entire town is shut off from one water main break. I think there's like 400 houses in town.
Okay.
Yeah, different different experience.
Right.
Anyway, so you're working on anything that I can make fun of and feud with you about in the near future?
Let's see. So I moved into the new shop in the spring a couple months ago, and it's still a work in progress. But I went from a one car garage to two and a half, so it's a pretty big upgrade. Um, Recently I've been doing more laser stuff. I got the 20-watt head for my laser, so I've just been kind of seeing what's going on with that. And I was making fun of Keith Drennan with the woodblock printing. So that's the
Uh-huh.
newest thing I've been obsessed with. Um, so I keep saying, hey man, I'm making art, you know, because like and so like my art education is what I had to learn to teach the Cub Scouts art. So it's like Kandinsky thought that he could hear colors, you know, like that. But if you
Yeah.
go to the basic of like, hey, art is intended to invoke an emotion, well then hell yeah, I'm making art, right? Because I'm making people mad on Instagram, right? Um,
Joe.
but yeah, no, so and I guess that's like the ADD brain too. It's like, oh, it's cool, and then like something else is cool, and then so I saw that for the first time in person at Maker Camp 2 years ago with Dave Bauer, and he had little rubber blocks and like these little gouges, and you just make a design, stick it in his press, and you're making like an upside down stamp basically, right? And then
Yeah.
when you look into it, you're like, oh yeah, woodblocks has been around for like thousands of years. Like ancient Chinese did it, and now we think we're cool because like we're in a garage making stamps, Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm not like great with like making art, so I'm like, well, I got this laser now, so let's see what that can do. And then now, I kind and like that's so, well, I'm not, and I keep referencing other podcasts here, but I'm sure you heard the working hands skill versus knowledge thing, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but to get my laser to do what I want it to do, it takes a hell of a lot of knowledge. If you're going by Keith's definition there, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to blend this thing that I can buy for $500 and is. I mean, even a decade ago, nobody would think that this laser would be in my garage, right? And then you combine that with something that's thousands of years old, so maybe that's more on the artsy fartsy kind of side of things. But maybe just being in this community has kind of opened that line of thinking, like, oh, maybe it is okay to like mess up and make something that's not perfect.
Yeah, for sure. That's that blending of two ends of the spectrum is an interesting thing about current makers. Like myself, I have a CNC and I have a laser, and then on my wall I have hand planes, and I have I just made some hangers for these old crosscut saws.
Right.
That's like you have the two ends of the spectrum, and it is crazy that you're right. 10 years ago, the stuff that's in our shops now is like, holy crap, that's almost science fiction level of like 3D printers and lasers, and it's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like even an Ender 3 now, which is like old technology, like why would you even buy that? Is still like if my dad came back from the grave, he'd be like, holy shit, like I can make gun parts now, like um, I don't know, and maybe it's like that whole thing of the curiosity and like, hey, like I'll give it a shot. I got nothing to lose. Like, um, and like I'm a hobbyist, right? Like I have those illusions of grandeur of actually selling things that I make, but let's see if that ever happens. But I can come down here and just mess with stuff and just gain knowledge for my own benefit, right? For $200, I can be making little plastic toys. It's like, and the technology just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, it does. And I think to to kind of agree with Keith to some extent though too is the technology is getting better, and so to some extent the skill is decreasing. Because if you can take something out of the box, plug it in, and push print, and it'll produce the thing, did that take any skill? Did it even take knowledge aside from the basic competency of being able to plug something in without electrocuting yourself, right?
Yeah, so I think I agree more with Tony on that, where he said it's a chicken or egg thing, right? So like, yeah, if you want to print benchies that are on the card all day, and I mean that's great, but what does that get you, right? Where even just like downloading an STL and manipulating it and figuring out like, oh, I actually need Cura, like that took me forever to figure. Like I had to watch YouTube videos and stuff. So and let's go back to key and let's tear Mr. Blackthorn apart because he's not here to defend himself, right? That's always fun. Like let's say I worked in a
Much
like
better to stab people in the back than it is to let them defend themselves, for sure.
right. So he was saying like a table saw you need skill to run, right? But what if I hypothetically needed a whole bunch of blocks that are 6 inches wide, and I set the fence to 6 inches wide, and I teach you use the push blocks so that you don't, cut your fingers off, and then you make 100 blocks that are 6 inches wide. Like, did that take skill or did that take knowledge, right? So I think you need both, and the argument is kind of theoretical because like if the goal is to make something, you need both, right?
Yeah, that's true. And then I think that's where the difference is. To let's start another can of worms, I guess. That's where the difference is between art and production too, right?
Right.
Is you get art for me, art is more the generation of the idea than it is the process itself. Because I don't think anybody out there would deny that Michelangelo was a great artist, right?
Right.
But Michelangelo had a team of craftsmen that did a lot of the work, you know. So he
Right.
didn't do every aspect of everything that is a Michelangelo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so he's more the idea guy and put it on paper, and then they bring it up and make it life. So
Yeah.
they're the 3D printers of of that time, right?
Yeah, and the same can be said of like AI stuff now, right? Like AI isn't out there just producing, wow, look at this original art that this AI made all by itself. I mean, maybe it is, and maybe we're all, stuck in the matrix already, but you know what I mean? There has to be some creative input prior to the idea coming out as art.
Right. Well, I think isn't the argument that AI is stealing current artists' work and then, rebranding it as original? Like that's one of the big arguments against AI art.
I mean, probably, but who's the art is theft is a famous artist said that. And let me look it up quick and see who it was.
Right. Like yeah, there's not too many original ideas out there, right? So you're influenced by things every day.
Pablo Picasso is widely quoted as having said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal."
Okay.
So I guess by that definition, AI is great art.
Yeah.
Speaking of great art, did you see the reel I posted when I was out in Boston? There went to the Springfield Modern Art Museum.
I don't know. I think I saw you pointing at like a cabin and saying like my uncle's here or something.
No, no, that's yeah, that was in Illinois, I think.
Oh, okay.
My fifth great grandfather built that house. He was a Revolutionary War vet. But no, when we were in Springfield, Massachusetts, we went to an art museum there, and there was this like literally looked like something I dug out of my scrap bin and just randomly glued together and painted yellow. Like
Okay.
without a word of a lie, that's exactly what it looked like. Just like my daughter with her hot glue gun would have done the same thing.
Right.
and and uh, and yet this was art, and it was celebrated art because of his use of color and material. And like
Yeah. Well,
what
did
what part of this is art aside from I'm putting garbage together
right.
or taping a banana to a wall? How is that art?
Yeah. Well, there was a story where like a college kid left a banana in an art museum and he came back the next day and there was a glass case over it. Like someone thought it was an exhibit.
Yeah,
Well, then there's like Piss Jesus and all that stuff. Like I think that was big in the '90s, right? Like just this insulting thing to millions and millions of people, and then they're like, "Oh no, it's art." It's like, huh. I guess when you take away the rules, it's like, well, not now you have to deal with that consequences, right?
yeah.
But then I guess
Well,
it's also
you're an artist then.
I am by making my woodblocks with the middle fingers on them, right? So and I actually can't sell those because I just took free clip art from the internet, right? So I have to steal the idea and make my own version of the middle finger, I guess.
Well, just alter the proportions slightly, and then you're
Yeah,
good, right?
yeah,
Then you're
just
just Pablo Picasso.
right. So, what kind of this is like my ADD brain, but like in scouts, we have one of the guys from the council. He goes, "Scouting is the only organization that actively promotes plagiarism." So as long as you're doing it to help the kids, like you could just take somebody else's stuff and show it to them, like you don't really need to make something original because we just keep doing the same lessons over and over.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny we got on art because I'm not the art guy, right? Like, this is all these other podcasts, and these people are like classically trained in art, and they have this medium and that. And I'm like, oh, I'm just dicking around in my garage.
Well, and that's where, like, do you have to be classically trained to be an artist? I would say no. Art art
Right,
is the art is the idea of being an artist. It's not necessarily a specific thing because then if there is a specific you have to meet these criteria, then how does taping a banana to a wall constitute art? Or is it only art if you have a degree? In which case, you know, I think most artists would argue against that, except for the ones that maybe teach art at the university.
right. Or the ones that need to sell their art to eat, right?
Yeah,
Because that whole like valuation of art is like it's what people's perception of it is that dictates the price, right?
yeah,
So that whole thing is just mind blowing when I start looking into like, okay, what's the value of art?
yeah, and well, and back to the scrapwood project glued together nonsense. I don't know how much that piece was worth, but what then makes the difference between my daughter gluing her scrapwood together and painting it yellow and his?
Right.
aside from aside from maybe this is where I have to go back on what I said prior to that. Maybe he had a degree and that's what makes it art, whereas my daughter's just a little girl playing around in the garage.
Right. Yeah. Um. Oh, okay. So, do you like? not force, but like actively encourage your kids to come out and make stuff with you, or is it more of like, hey, it's available and they wander in and hey, here's some stuff to play with?
A little of column A, a little of column B.
Okay.
So my son, I I kind of actively encourage him to come out more so,
Mhm.
so when there's things that need to be done, you know, I encourage him to come out, and that's going to be part of the homeschool curriculum this year. Is he needs a new bed, and so as a part of the math program and art for this year, he's going to be designing it and measuring it up, and then I'll have him come out here and help me with the construction and stuff.
Oh,
My
that's pretty cool.
daughters, they just come out because they want to come out, and I give them the hot glue gun and tell them not to burn themselves, and they figure it out.
Right.
And it, again, going back to our earlier discussion of sexism and stuff, it has nothing to do with that, and has everything to do with just age, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like my son's a teenager, my daughters are, you know, toddlers and kindergartners,
Yeah.
so there's just a different level of ability there.
Yeah. My daughter's 7, and I built her a little pink workbench, and I'm spray painting things like hammers and stuff pink, and I kind of have a deal like when we go to Home Depot, if she wants a new tool, like we'll buy a new tool, and so she's into like trying to get the sharpest thing she can. Uh, so it's that, but like she doesn't actively come down here. Um, every once in a while, if she's like walking through, like I'd be like, hey, let's do this little project. Like we'll just nail together like a um little kit and that kind of thing. Every once in a while, we'll have like some old electronics we'll take apart, and I'm like, well, we can't smash them, but let's take them apart and see what is inside, and she'll get like a wiring harness and be like, hey, looks like a rainbow. So that's where we're at now. It's just kind of want to encourage that more, unless I've had time, but it's kind of tough with the schedule and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where, like if she's 7, right now her attention span is the same as that of a gnat's hiccup.
Right.
And so, yeah, you can't expect her to come out and let's build a Bombay chest of drawers together.
Right.
Like her speed is come out and let's hammer a couple nails in and go off on your way. And then as she develops, she'll have more or less interest. And if she has more interest, then she'll take on more complicated things. And that's kind of the way I did it with my son too. Is when he was little, we'd come out and he'd just kind of hammer a couple nails in and then wander off and do something else. The same thing, use the hot glue gun.
Right.
And as
Yeah.
he's become more adept at things, then he's progressed. And like the whole blacksmithing thing, the forge and all that type of stuff that we have, that's all his. Like he wanted to do that. And so he's still not at the level of going out and making anything of any significance, but he's still, he's more involved in that now because that's become his thing.
Right.
Right.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, where's my knife?
Well, they're not done yet.
Okay. Um.
Um, I was gonna, yeah, because I was gonna go out and we were gonna stop by Adam Coonrat's on the
Oh.
way
Right.
home and finish them out there. And then, of course, I had my truck break down out in Massachusetts, and so that changed my travel plans and changed my travel budget significantly. And so then we ended up changing that, and so the knives are still sitting half finished. That's We've only been home for a week now, I think,
Okay.
and we need to get those finished and get the raffle actually completed.
You mean waffle?
Yes, the waffle.
Right. Links
Don't
Instagram.
don't want to violate any international gaming regulations. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, but oh yeah, Adam is a great guy. When I was doing my I don't know if you noticed in the horrible YouTube video I made for the first Make What You Fear. Um I'm up at the Blackthorn and I've never blacksmithed before, and I'm like, oh, I watched some videos, and I'm like hitting some hot metal and it's going flying, and I guess he was on the other side of the event, and he's like, oh man, this guy's gonna hurt somebody. So he just comes over, he's like, hey, how's you doing? And I was like, hey, can I give you a couple tips? I'm like, yes, please. And like within like 2 minutes, I'm like, oh wow, this is a lot better. And so
My
he was
shoulder stopped hurting.
yeah, I'm like, it's not, this hot metal's not hitting me in the foot anymore. Like, so yeah, so then I guess back on our topic of community, right? So like he was just a cool guy heading out, like I'm like, yeah man, help. And then him and Brandon from Echo Mountain were talking, and I overheard him, and then they were talking about Forge and Fire. I'm like, oh, like Forge and Fire. He's like, yeah, I won. I'm like, you won Forge and Fire, like, and you're here helping me do this stupid shitty knife. And he's like, yeah, it's cool. Like, so like the more and more you talk to people, like it's just like these guys are making amazing things and they're willing to share. It's just don't be a dick, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we were. Yeah, I'd messaged him because my son likes watching Forest and Fire, and so I'd messaged him and asked him when we were out there, can I stop by? And because he'd offered a couple times to, you know, talk to my son through the blacksmithing process if he needed any help making the knives, and so I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to stop by and actually learn how to do it from somebody who knows what they're doing, and then yeah,
right.
$7,000 repair bill changed my hands.
Oof. Okay. Yeah, stupid cars.
Yeah.
So my Silverado is a 13 with 175,000 miles. So at this point, it's basically just brakes and oil changes and wait till the wheels fall off. You know.
Yeah. Well, mine just ticked over 184,000 kilometers. So
I have no idea what that means.
160,000 kilometers. Well, 160,000 kilometers would be 100,000 miles.
Okay. So you're at like
So
75
I'm
ish.
110,000 miles is where I'm sitting at right now. I think
Okay.
ish.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
the
We put on close to 15,000 miles this summer. No, probably more than that. Closer to 18,000 miles almost this summer.
okay. The shit, since I've been working at home, that's like 7 years of miles, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the gypsies. Well, I guess you don't have those up there, but here, well, I guess gypsies is the wrong term, but like traveling workmen, work people. Um, if you're at like the grocery store, they'll come up to you and be like, "Hey, like I do body work at the dealership, and I got my stuff in my trunk. I'll you know, for $100, I'll fix that dent for you or whatever, right?" And they're just gonna pull it out and spray paint it. Like it's not legit. But they stopped asking me to do that after their wheel wells started showing visible rust. I'm like, thank you. Yes, like if I ever get a new truck, I'll just paint some rust on it. You know. um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's at a certain level of ugly, the person doesn't care about this vehicle, so they're not going to ask you anymore.
right. Like on the New Jersey merge lanes, it's like I don't know, man. Try me. Like you see all that damage back there. Right. That's the worst. Is like a merge is like figure out where you fit, right? But when in either side, if you're in the lane or you're on the ramp, the person who does nothing and is just constant, it's the worst. Like, or are they even conscious? You know, I don't know if you have that
Yeah.
traffic up there, but
Some places it gets annoying like that. Yeah.
right. So Keith's having an aneurysm listening to this right now. He's probably literally yelling at somebody that's merging. So,
I used to live in Los Angeles, so I understand traffic.
oh well, there you'll be doing like 80 miles an hour, and then in a second you're doing nothing.
Yeah. That's no joke. I got stuck in a traffic jam at 2 o'clock in the morning once.
Right. So I think that's worse than what we have here. I mean, New Jersey's usually moving. It's just everybody's an idiot, you know? Oh, what's that? You were talking about the Dunning Kruger, I think, where
The
you were like,
Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah.
I'm the only one here that can drive, right?
Yeah, it's a false sense of confidence in your own abilities. So you think you're smarter than you really are.
Right.
And that's where like I think the statistic is 90% of drivers think that they're better than average. Something like that.
So I think that it's just that, at least in New Jersey, you have like dog shit people that like can't make it out of their driveway without hitting a tree, and then you have really good people. So the average is just very skewed among that range, right?
You have the drive by braille and then the people who can drift.
Yeah, the F1 racers, like, so I'm like in the 90% almost F1, you know, in my Silverado.
And I'm pretty certain you are.
Right.
That's actually something that growing up on a farm, right? The first time I drove a farm implement by myself, I was 4 years old. My,
Okay.
my dad put it into gear. I mean, it was low gear, so it wasn't going very fast. Puts it into gear, tells me to drive it across the field, and then he jumped out of the tractor and went and got the other tractor, drove it
Okay.
across the field, and then came back and jumped in to the first one that I was driving. That's my first experience driving anything, and legitimately driving, not just starting it up and accidentally driving it into the ditch. That happened when I was 2.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but then the first time that I drove a standard car, like a manual transmission car, by myself, I was in grade 2, so that would be what, 7?
Yeah.
I would have been 7 or 8, somewhere in that range. I don't quite remember exactly when it was, but that's the first time I drove a standard car by myself, and I shifted it into third gear. Uh, and so by the time in Alberta, you can get your learner's license when you're 14.
Okay.
And so by the time I got my learner's license, I could already maintain a controlled drift around a corner on gravel. And so I'm talking to friends at school and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to take driving lessons. I'm going to learn how to drive." I'm like, well, "What are you talking about? You don't know how to drive?" Like,
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, here it's almost mandatory to take driving lessons.
well, it is here now too, but when because I'm so old, it wasn't when I was a kid. But
Oh, okay. Man, we just don't have that much gravel to crash into either, you know, like I think it gets into the oh, you're gonna hurt the neighbors kind of thing if you let 4-year-olds drive.
that's yeah, you don't have a 10,000-acre farm that you can just cruise around on the field on when you're 5 years old.
No, we have like 5,000 square foot lots and most of it's the house, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, do you think we offended anybody on the internet today?
I hope so. We need to get some content going here, man. The holidays are coming. We need to monetize this.
That's true. We need to conclude with something really provocative about art.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Because I
Let's
gotta.
see. We can use that. We can use that as the promo clip, right?
Yeah. Leave me alone. I'm creating art over here.
You can only create art if you have a master's degree in art.
Yeah, that's good. And the student loan to go with it too.
Yeah, that's what makes you into the starving artist is the student loans.
Right. So I don't. How is it in Canada with that? Because like here, it's almost predatory lending. You know.
So actually, just this last year, this is probably the one beneficial thing. This is going to be I don't know, this is going to offend somebody. This is the one beneficial thing that our current government has done is they've eliminated interest for student loans.
Okay.
So that's up prior to that. Prior to that, it was only. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It was only like 4.5, 5%, something like that. So it wasn't super burdensome. But yeah, our student loan here is a lot different than the U.S. That being said, they're also capped
Oh
at
yeah,
a
we need
certain.
that. Okay.
Yeah, well, you're only allowed to have a certain am- amount of student loan, right?
Um.
But-
I, yeah, I don't. It's been so long. I mean, I'm still paying mine off, but and this isn't my theory, but like here you have an 18-year-old kid who is 12th grade, and he's never had to manage any kind of money other than like, hey, I need to get pizza or I want this new Xbox game or whatever he's into, right? So you're talking hundreds of dollars, right? And then the whole narrative of like you need to go to college while it's still there, and then you walk in the on the tour or whatever, and they're like, yeah, no problem, like you can come here, sign here, and then they let him spend 100,000, 200,000, like whatever he wants to do, no problem, and then there's no guarantee of gainful employment or ever repaying those things, right? So if that kid went on his 18th birthday to the Ferrari dealership and says, "Hey, I want to spend $125,000 on the car," they would laugh at him and physically remove him from the dealership, right? And the answer is, well, you'll never repay that, and you're going to crash the car into a ditch because you can't handle that, right? But the American government just has this insurance policy for all these predatory lenders to go like, yeah, hey, no problem. You want to be a lawyer, $400,000, and like even if you don't pass the class or whatever, you still owe the money. So
Yeah.
like and I'm not saying that college is bad or whatever, but it's collusion between the educational institutions and the government and the lenders, right? Maybe there should be some kind of checks and balances, or maybe there should be some kind of um, assurance that this kid can actually repay it, or I don't know. Or maybe
Well,
the government stops backing the loans, and then the colleges will have to become competitive and change all their bullshit that you don't actually need, you know?
yeah,
So,
100%. I agree with you. And there is, Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy.
right,
Yeah, he's always talking about how the you don't necessarily need to go to college to. We've had this idea far too long that college is the way to go, and only dumb people go into the trades.
right.
And
So,
I think he's 100% right that that's been a narrative, and I think you're right too that there has been a collusion between lenders and schools at the very least, and then their lobbies have managed to
right.
force the government doing
And
what it's doing.
just to be clear, I'm glad I went to college, and I have a stay-at-home job, and it's great, and it worked out for me. But I still have the loans too, right? So I think it's more of a, hey, let's slow down and make some goals, and like maybe you don't have to do anything at 18. Maybe you get some shitty jobs, and you try a couple different things, and when you're 20 or 21, and then you've got all the drinking out of your system, well, maybe then we go, right? Like I don't know about this. What's an 18-year-old kid know about anything? right? Like I still don't know what I want to do with when I grow up, and I've been doing it for 20 years. So like I don't know. Maybe it's more of a transparency. Like, hey, there's a lot of different options out there, you know. So I don't know.
100%. And me personally, I'm a perfect, maybe not a perfect example of that, but I'm a great example of that. In high school, I was the kid who did nothing and got straight A's, right?
Right,
I think I had one class in my grade 12 year that I got a B in. So that was me. And then I went to university immediately, and I absolutely tanked because I just screwed around. I didn't
right.
blow any money drinking or anything like that, but I just didn't do my work. And so my GPA coming out of my first year of university was 1.9 something.
Okay,
Like it was below the level of you're going to get kicked out if you don't pick this up.
right.
And anyway, so then I went off and served a 2-year mission for my church, and that's when I ended up living in Los Angeles. And then I came back home, and then I worked in the oil field for a year, and I did a whole bunch of craft work, basically. And then I had this educational come to Jesus moment. I'd been awake for 40 hours. I was standing on top of a drilling rig installing some stuff. It was minus 40. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was like a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing. And so this is like the worst case scenario, right? And I had this moment of like, this sucks. I can go to school and I can have a job where I can choose where I am. And then I went back to university, and I graduated with my first degree with like a 3.7 something, I think. Don't remember now. And like it made a huge difference.
Right. You had
And
some
just having a little
perspective.
bit of that life experience of doing something besides more school and having a little bit more life maturity just makes a huge difference. So I think that, yeah, people who think you have to go to school right out of university, I think a gap year of, go do something fun or go do some crap jobs and experience some life outside of your parents' house is a good idea.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I kind of so uh I was the first one in my immediate family to actually go to college, right? So my dad was a firefighter, my mom worked in a nursing home, so it was kind of like they got sold the dream of like, yeah, you can do anything you want, right? It's like, yeah, you can, but like nobody ever talks about what what it takes to get there, right? Um so I decided I wanted to be an airplane pilot. And we went down to Embry-Riddle and Daytona Beach, and it's a great school, but it's also like a rich kid school, you know. And
Uh,
we didn't come from a rich family, but hey, sign here, no problem. And so I got a couple pilot certificates, single and multi-engine land, and a bunch of hours and stuff. And one day maybe it's not as bad as yours, but we're at like 10,000 feet, flight instructor. I'm like, nah, I'm kind of bored of this. And then my freaking 18-year-old brain was like, all right, I'm just gonna go do something else. Like after having spent $40,000 on this, right? And then come back and I'm like, well, I started talking to pilots and they said like if they had to do it over, they'd get a degree in something else because it's like being a cop, right? You don't need a degree in criminal justice; you just need a degree. So when the industry goes down, they could be out of work. So they said I'd go into like teaching or computers or something. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So then I go to DeVry. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what that is.
yeah.
So like, you're getting made fun of and stuff, but then you get there and it's like, no, we want to get you in the work. We're trying to cut the fat, do like as little of the extra stuff as possible. And I go to a job fair. I don't even know if they still have those anymore. And I end up talking to my boss now and like interviewing him, right? And so then he calls me in and then gives me an offer letter for more money than I've ever seen. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to do this now. And then I've been there for going on 17 years now, which is kind of unheard of in this industry. But like maybe I should have waited and then just went to the ride, instead of spending 40 grand.
Well, yeah, but this is where for me, I feel like you wouldn't have known that unless you had the experience
Right.
as well. There's a story I heard recently, and it's a religious there's a religious story in it, and the guy is walking down the path with his son, and they're lost, and they get to this fork in the path, and we don't know which way to go, so let's say a prayer, and we'll go down. And we'll go down the one that we feel like we should go down, right? And so they say the prayer and they feel like they should go down the one on the left. And so they go down the one on the left and it goes around a corner and within 50 yards, it's a dead end. And so they turn around and they go back down the other path. And so as they're walking down the path, the son, well, why did God tell us to go down this path when it was clearly the wrong path? And the father said, well, maybe he wanted us to know that that was the wrong path. And we would have been always kind of second guessing all the way. And so now we know that this is the right path. And I think, religion aside from that story, I think it's very applicable to situations like that where as a kid, you wanted to be a pilot. And had you not gone down that pilot path and discovered that, yeah, you know what, never mind, I don't want to be a pilot, maybe you would have been sitting in this very job, this whole time being,
Well, yeah,
like, oh, I should have been a pilot. I wanted to be a pilot. And then you just be unsatisfied with where you're at, even though this is where you should be at. Does that make sense?
yeah, that's true. It's like the butterfly effect, kind of, right? In the time
Yeah.
machine. So
Yeah.
So listen, I want to get like a private plane and go around and mess around. I just don't want to have to do that as a job, you know?
And that's the reality. I would love to be able to fly and not have to pay anything. That'd be awesome.
Right. I'm still working on the $4,000 El Camino, not the $150,000 Cessna, right? So let's get that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we should probably wrap this up.
You have to like go do work and stuff.
Yeah, me too. I gotta go into town and get some drinking water.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
But anyway, so thanks for coming on, Ed. I appreciate you taking the time and yeah. Where can everybody find you on the social medias?
Probably most active on Instagram. It's @_Johns. So I post a little bit of everything there. I'm on Facebook. Actually, go watch my reels on Facebook because I'm monetized for ads right now. So just watch them a lot and tell all your friends. And then I think I'm on Threads, and if you want, just DM me. I'll give you my phone number. We can text. It's fine.
Well, why don't you just put your phone number up on the internet and then
Oh, if you want to, we can. Yeah.
put it out there for everybody.
Yeah. Get a new Asian girlfriend, but robot, right?
Exactly.
So,
Anyway,
all right.
well, thanks for coming on. And for those of you who are interested, we're going to go into the after show. That's available on Patreon, so you can head over there and subscribe to that, and listen to more of the same conversation of two boring old white guys talking to each other about politics, art, and other podcasts.
Yep.